Hello, everyone, and welcome to my 2026 driver standings prediction. This is going to be a long one, where I am going to be ranking my predictions for the Why? I didn't need to say that at all. You know what I'm doing. Let's get into it, alright? So, my prediction for the worst driver, it's Arvid Lindblad. He is obviously the only rookie of this year. He does look fast, you know. He's had some pretty good wins in F2. He's had some good moments, but you can tell that he's still pretty inexperienced. You know, I don't think that he's ready for F1 yet. He came like 6th or something at F2 off the top of my head. And yeah, I think that he's kind of being thrown straight into the deep end in F1. I think he's not a bad driver. He's just not ready yet, you know. He needs another year in F2 to kind of mature and, you know, grow as a driver, you know. But on top of all this, so I predict that he's going to be crashing quite a lot this season. You're going to see quite a lot of Lindblad crashes. He is going to have some pretty good drives, you know, every now and again, like many rookies. He might even get into the points, but unfortunately I do predict, as it is a lot harder to get into the points now this season, as there's only 10 point scoring positions and 22 cars, he is probably going to finish the season on 0 points. He could get 1 or 2 here and there, but then that means that the others in front of him have to get more points. So I predict that he's going to stay on 0. But on top of all this, I think that the V-Carb will be in the lower midfield in this year, which won't help his case at all, really. I feel like the only teams that V-Carb's going to be faster than is Caddy and what's the other one? Aston. Yeah, just their times in practice haven't really been great, you know. Definitely not compared to teams like Alpine, Haas. But, you know, it is practice. You don't base your predictions solely off practice. A lot of it is vibes. A lot of it is previous seasons. But then you also have the practice to take into account. And that is why I've got Lindblad in 22. But the man who will one-up Lindblad but still be sadly in 21st place, I've got Valtteri Bottas. And this one is a big case of the car, not the driver. As we've seen that this driver is capable when given the right car to get race wins, and plenty of them at that. But I'm just thinking back to 2024 when he finished last on the grid with 0 points. Yes, they had the slowest car, but they've got the slowest car, aside from Aston maybe, this year. So it doesn't fill me with much hope and optimism for Bottas, as he is now 2 years older. You know, he's probably slightly more washed, unless he's like Fernando Alonso or something. I do love the guy, but yeah, this is why I've had to put him in 21st place. You know, I think he's going to be consistent, but consistently bad. If that makes sense. Like, I don't think he's going to have like terrible races, you know, down to his skill. He's just not going to be able to drag that tractor into points positions, really. He might get 1 or 2 points by the end of this season, but, you know, I think that it is a reasonable prediction to put him second to last. And the one in 20th place, I've got his teammate, Checo Perez. Unfortunately, I have got CP at 20th place. Yeah, I do think Cadillac are going to be comfortably sitting at the bottom of these standings for pretty much the whole season. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if neither of these scored a single point. They would have to pull an absolute masterclass, like some Nico Hülkenberg type masterclass. And, you know, like I said, it's going to be harder to score points because there's 22 instead of 20. But we all know that Checo Perez has got what it takes, you know. He's a class driver, you know, Mexican Minister of Defense. But, you know, you can't defend something that isn't behind you, you know? You can't defend as a back marker, that's what I mean. There's nothing to defend. So what are we doing here? So as much as I hate to do it, I do think that Sergio Perez is going to be 20th place. And the man ahead of him, who shouldn't deserve to be ahead of him, but I have put ahead of him, is Lance Stroll. I made a prediction before testing. I had, obviously, Stroll and Alonso a lot higher than what I have now. Like others, I was obviously hopping on the Aston Martin hype train of delusion just because Adrian Newey ended the chat, you know. And of course in this one his teammate is a lot higher. You know, we've seen Fernando Alonso comfortably outclass Stroll in like every way since they've been teammates. And I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see Stroll actually like drop in performance from now on. Like less strange masterclasses from him, you know, and more just stagnant downhill drops, you know. But here's my prediction for Aston, is that they'll get a lot better at the end of the season, like maybe even being competitive with the higher midfield teams like Williams. I still have faith in Adrian Newey being able to cook, and we could see Stroll end the season on more than 0 points, you know, which is going to put him above the bottom 3. All right, 18th place, I've gone with Franco Colapinto. Now, obviously he was, I would say, the laughing stock of last year, but, you know, he was the only driver that was sitting on 0 points. You know, the second driver after him was Bortoleto, I'd like to say, who scored 19, but he was sitting quite comfortably in last place, having scored 0. And that is mainly due to the Alpine being a literal lawnmower last year. But yeah, I think that Colapinto is going to have made less mistakes this year. He's going to have matured a bit, and by the looks of it in practice, he's just going to be quicker on one lap pace. I could see him making it into Q2 quite a lot, maybe even into Q3 like once or twice, you know. But the main reason I see him higher than last year is obviously because Alpine are actually going to be competitive with other midfield teams in this season. In 17th place, I have got Liam Lawson. You might think this is a bad result for Lawson, but if you look at how far ahead he is compared to his teammate, it's not actually that bad. I just think that the V-Carb is going to be the second or third worst car this year, so I can see him being quite slow, but also I can see him maturing a lot more as a driver, and I think that we're going to see the best version of Liam yet, but unfortunately he just won't have the car to back him. Next place, this hurts my soul to say it, but it's going to be Fernando Alonso. I've put him low, but not too low, because he is still Fernando Alonso. Yeah, it kind of got a bit of a ring to it, you know. Like what I said when I was talking about Lance Stroll, he is going to be held back by the car significantly in the first half of the season, maybe scoring a point or two from some generational drives, but then he's going to get all of his points in the second half, where the car won't just get faster, but his spirits will be lifted too, as I feel like he might underperform at the start because he doesn't like the new cars at all. Anyway, 15th place, I have Bortoleto. Yes, that means that Fernando Alonso is going to be a better manager than driver this year, but I think that Bortoleto is actually going to significantly improve this season. I think that all of the 2025 rookies will improve, which is a bit ambitious, but I mean, it is a realistic prediction. But yeah, we know that Bortoleto has got the sauce. Back-to-back F3 and F2 champion. And he's had many unlucky moments from last year. And about Audi, I think that they are going to be generally faster than Sauber when not having issues like engine problems, which I think is going to be their biggest setback actually. At P14 in the standings, I've got Esteban Ocon, and you might be quite surprised to see him here. Like, you might think it's a little high, but I actually think that Ocon, if anything, could be slightly worse than last year. But that Haas car looks reliable and fast. So I think the car is going to carry him quite a bit this year, where maybe he shouldn't have so much, and he's going to score a decent amount of points. At P13, I've got Nico Hülkenberg. And I think that just like last year, he's going to perform really well, and he's going to get most of his points from getting like really good race results, just like last year. And obviously he's going to have that Audi to back him, you know. So yeah, that's why I see him ahead of Bortoleto, to be honest. While I don't think we'll see a podium, I can see a P5 or a P6 a couple of times snuck in there, you know. I just know that Hülkenberg's got the sauce and he's not going to let me down. He will finish P13. At P12, I've got Ollie Bearman. He had some great moments and finishes, especially towards the end of last season. So I think that he'll keep on improving his year and be comfortably ahead of his teammate, which might actually prompt the Haas team to start looking for replacements for Ocon. I think that Bearman is going to have some really great finishes and maybe even a podium. I think that it could attract the attention of Ferrari, unfortunately for him, looking to replace Hamilton. So we could actually see him in Ferrari next year or the year after. At P11, I've got Pierre Gasly. And you might think I've put him too high, but I genuinely believe that he is the most skilled out of this current midfield that we've talked about so far. and he'll have the car to put him into 11th in the standings. And I would also like to say that it might look a bit ambitious putting him so many positions higher than his teammate, but he managed to score 20 points in that absolute tractor last year, while both his teammates got 0 points. So I think it's fair to say that he's got what it takes to be this far ahead. Alright, we're at the top 10 now, and at number 10, I've got Alex Albon. And I predict that Albon is going to be quite far ahead of Gasly, as the Williams will be at around the same level as Alpine at the start of the season, but I think will improve better than them towards the end, and potentially even leave the other midfield teams in the dust, and they could be battling with the top teams next year. And of course, Albon has the sauce. We all know, so that's why I think he'll be comfortably ahead of Gasly by the end of the season. Also, he's said that he actually likes the car, so, he'll be comfortable and, he'll be in that flow state more. And at number 9, I've got his teammate Carlos Sainz. As he is a smooth operator, and a lot of this season will be more focused around the management of the cars, I think that we can expect to see him, I'll say it, comfortably ahead of Alex Albon this season. And Papa Vowles will be very happy with his 2 beautiful baby boys. I think Sainz is going to put his Williams into the podium more than once this year, like he did last year. But yeah, he's just one of the biggest talents on the grid, and I think he's going to cook this season. At 8th place, I've got Isack Hadjar. I think that he's going to have some growing pains when going into Red Bull. He'll feel the pressure of the second seat curse, that's for sure. But I think that ultimately he will break it this season. I think that the RB22 is going to be very quick this season, and that it's going to take him into a position comfortably ahead of the Williams boys. I think that as it's the first season with Lauren Mekies as team principal, the second seat curse will wear thin and it will blossom into a beautiful Red Bull partnership. And of course, I haven't mentioned yet that Hadjar himself is a bloody good driver, and yeah, he looks very promising. Maybe even when Verstappen ultimately leaves the sport in like 3 years, he will be Red Bull's main driver, and he could even be a world champion one day. At number 7, I've got Lewis Hamilton. I think it's going to be close between Hamilton and Hadjar, but I think Hamilton will edge out Hadjar by a few more points come the end of the season, because he'll just be more consistent than Hadjar. And the Ferrari actually looks good this season, especially off the line. But of course, Ferrari will do their average shenanigans and it will drag down Hamilton further than he should be. But I think that Hamilton's going to have a much better season than last. He'll feel more comfortable in the car. He's flamed the cars, but he's also looked like he's been enjoying himself. So I think he's comfortable with them. I think I'll say that. But I have a prediction. He will do very well in the first part of the season, and yes, I do think he will actually score a couple of podiums too. But towards the end of the season, I predict that he will split up with Kim Kardashian, and there will be loads of drama about it, and they'll both accuse each other of heinous things which will affect Hamilton's pace. So yeah, Hamilton won't need Ferrari to keep up his depression. It's clear that even though he's a racing driver, Hamilton doesn't really care about the mileage. He just takes what he can get at this point. And even then, I think it's going to break his heart when they split up. Anyway, number 6. I've got Antonelli. I think that he's actually going to improve a lot. His main upside is going to be his 1-lap pace, as we've previously seen. But other things like his race management might still not be amazing. But I think that he will actually comfortably beat Hamilton on points this season, after almost beating him in the last. And his position will be mostly thanks to Mercedes being really good, but he will also make less mistakes and be a better driver. I didn't say this about Hamilton, but I think this about Antonelli. Antonelli will get a race win this season. That's what I predict. After maybe a little bit of chaos, he can get in there and grab a cheeky win for himself. At number 5, I've got Charles Leclerc. This one's a little bit ambitious, but I do think that the Ferrari is going to be a good competitive car this year. In fact, I think all top 4 teams will be pretty equal, with some improving more than others as time goes forward. And I believe that Leclerc is still a top 3 driver of the grid, and he's going to put a really good fight up against his competitors this season, with maybe even a win or 2 as well. Alright, we are on to the big top 4 now. Probably the top 4 that many people has as their top as well. But at number 4 on this list, I've gone for the current reigning champion, Lando Norris. Does this mean that I think he'll do bad this season? Absolutely not. In fact, I think that he'll actually make less mistakes this season and stay around the same pace as he did last year, so overall he'll do better. But I think that there's going to be bigger competitors in the way of him getting a second world championship, mainly thanks to the cars. However, there is one driver who I think will do better than Norris who doesn't have that excuse, and that is Oscar Piastri. I think the pastry is finally going to beat Norris by a thin margin and pick up his feet from where he left off in the last 2 races of 2025 and get back to his prime form. The thing about Oscar Piastri is that he is a quick learner. He almost won a world championship in just his 3rd season of F1, and he's back-to-back F2 and F3 world champion. I think that he'll find out what went wrong towards the end of last season and make sure that it won't happen again. I mean, as we saw from the last 2 races as well, he picked up his feet massively and he actually beat Lando Norris twice in a row. But however, it won't be enough for him to become world champion, as there are still 2 competitors in this way with equal, if not better cars. Okay, now we have finally arrived at the top 2 drivers, Max Verstappen and George Russell. And I think these drivers will be sitting pretty comfortably ahead of Piastri and Norris in the standings. And so to round off my 2026 driver standings predictions, I've got Max Verstappen in 1st and George Russell close at number 2. I think that it's going to be really close between these 2, with Russell having a slightly better car at the end of the season, but both cars being pretty equal at the start. But I do think that Russell is going to have the best season of his life and be leading the championship for a few races before Verstappen catches up. I can even see the championship leader like switching around every other race. It could even lead up to Abu Dhabi. It could be like a replay of 2021, that would be sick. It's like George Russell was the last hope sent by Lewis Hamilton to defeat Verstappen. But yeah, I think that Mercedes is going to have the best engine, which puts them forward. Toto seems to be quite confident as he is doing that thing again where he glazes everyone else and says his car is rubbish, so it must be pretty good. But Max, just simply being the better driver and having performed under this kind of pressure before, will win the championship. But Red Bull are also going to be super fast, but run out of momentum towards the end of the season and maybe not even very competitive by the start of 2027, because thinking about it, they were the last team to stop bringing upgrades to their car last year, as they saw hope that Verstappen could actually win the championship, and I can see them having to do the same thing to keep up with Mercedes this season. Then Verstappen, being Verstappen, will do whatever it takes to win, whether he likes the cars or not. So yeah, I just see Verstappen winning his 5th this year, and George Russell missing out on the chance for his 1st. But hey, there's always next season. I could honestly see Russell versus Antonelli next season, as I don't think the Red Bull's going to be very competitive next year. That would be so sick, man. So that was my F1 2026 drivers standings predictions. I do hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, then subscribe, because more like this is to come, and like the video so you can help me out. I'm going to be doing my race weekend predictions for every race weekend. So in a few days, my Australia predictions will be posted, so stay tuned for that. And yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.